Thank you, Chair and Director. So I want to follow up on, I guess, the overlap between, or the potential overlap between the Purge and affidavit ballots. So for starters, I just want to make sure I know the affidavit ballot numbers right. It's been reported, but I guess I want to make sure I get them from you. So
Sure.
How many voters in Brooklyn voted on affidavit ballots? How many of those were counted, and how many were not counted?
We had 22,000. No, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the Bronx. Wrong BR. Hold on 1 second. Here we go. Brooklyn. We had 38,548 total affidavits cast in Brooklyn. Preliminarily, there were 9,055 valid ballots and 29,493 invalid ballots. After the enhanced scrutiny process, we ended up with a total number of 9,153 valid affidavits and 29,395 invalid ballots.
And that means you went through all 29,493 invalid ballots and matched them against the list of those that have been purged from the rolls. And there are no other people beyond the 98 that you found that voted affidavit, were declared invalid, and were on the purged list.
What I can tell you is that in addition to the regular valid invalidation process that gets done every single election, for everyone that was on the preliminarily invalid list, and I'm saying that purposefully, every document that we have in our voter registration system called Affidavit, voter data, voter history, any activity that we did, and all the documents that bearing a signature or a scanned piece of mail that might have been returned were all printed up, preliminarily reviewed, and then given second and third go-through to make sure that anyone that we could properly identify as having been improperly invalidated would have their vote revived, counted in the totals, and then ultimately restored to the voter rolls.
So staff looked through each of those, because obviously they're handwritten.
Correct.
And tried to figure out whether those folks had been rendered invalid through Purge or other inappropriate,
well, it was
potentially inappropriate.
It was more straightforward than even that, because this purge that we're talking about happened on 2 specific dates. There was a mailer that went out, and I think that point has gotten lost in the public conversation as well. We sent out a piece of mail, an intent to cancel notice, albeit improperly, to these folks that were going to be purged on May 26, 2015. On June 18th, the first larger purge was made. Then there was a second smaller mailer that happened in June, and that purge happened on July the 5th, 2015. All of this was reported out at our public meeting on July the 7th, 2015, before the commissioners. So we could zero in on those dates. June 18th purge, red flag. July 5th purge, red flag. So it really did hone us in. But in addition to that, in all 5 boroughs, we looked at anybody who was removed from the voter rolls that ultimately, on second look, could not be confidently validated by the documents in our system, and we revived their votes. To a much smaller scale, it happened in every borough except Staten Island.